game is over for Uddhav Thackeray ahead of the proposed floor test, something that the Supreme Court, in fact, mandated the Chief Minister, or no longer the Chief Minister, the beleaguered Shiv Sena leader has quit. As we take a close look at this unfolding political story, let's listen in to what Uddhav Thackeray had to say as he announced his resignation.
आज मी आपल्या सगळ्यांच्या समोर मुख्यमंत्री पदाचा देखील त्याग करत आहे. आजपर्यंत आपण सगळ्यांनी खूप प्रेम दिलं, खूप आशीर्वाद दिले. ठीक आहे, मी काही घाबरणारा नाही, मी डरणारा नाही, पण त्याच बरोबरीने कारण नसताना उद्या जे काही बंदोबस्तामध्ये शिवसैनिकाचं रक्त सांडेल त्या पापाचे धनी जे असतील त्यांना होऊ द्या, मी नाही होणार.
So Uddhav Thackeray has officially quit, realizing the writing on the wall that his party is no longer with him. It has been the coup of coups. Let's introduce our guest straight away on the program. Tejas Mehta, political analyst, is with us. We're also joined by Samrat. Samrat, if we can bring him into the box now. Samrat Fadnis is the editor of Sakal Media. Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst and Congress supporter, is with us. Sandeep Ghosh, columnist, commentator, is with us. Yashwant Deshmukh, a psephologist, political analyst with Sea Voter, is with us, and Varun Singh, senior journalist, is with us as well. If we can please add to Varun's caption there. Varun Singh, of course, first called this, and so Varun, I think congratulations are in order, not just to Eknath Shinde and Devendra Fadnavis, but also to you, because I think it was maybe on this program, let's say about 8 days ago, that you declared that Uddhav Thackeray was on his way out. What is going to happen now, Varun? 40 MLAs, nearly 40 MLAs being claimed by Eknath Shinde. Uddhav Thackeray clearly seeing the writing on the wall. What is going to happen now?
See, whatever I know of Devendra Fadnavis, he will stake claim and he may go for floor test because he would like to have full majority, and probably that could be, after that he will go, and whatever swearing in might happen tomorrow morning. It was expected that post-floor test, the swearing in might happen on Sunday. But now, probably before he goes for the floor test, he will have to be sworn in as the CM. And that is what everyone over here is expecting. What Uddhav clearly said or did is too late. Had he not heard to these advisors, especially Sanjay Raut, and on Wednesday when he delayed his press conference by half an hour and heard Sharad Pawar and Sanjay Raut, if he would have not done that and he would have resigned, it would have been a graceful, very graceful exit. It was known from day one that he has to resign because his MLAs had started abandoning him. First 22, 20, 14, 35, 39, and even the independents. He should have gracefully resigned on day one, that is on Wednesday, 22nd of June. And it would have been far more better. He would have saved his party. He would have saved these MLAs, would have come back, and he would have had like a better position than what he is in today.
So Varun, let me ask you this. You are clear that Devendra Fadnavis is going to be the next chief minister, and there is no other permutation combination. It's not as if Uddhav Thackeray remains party chief of the Shiv Sena, Eknath Shinde becomes the chief minister supported by the coalition.
No. that would be I think even in a different parallel universe it wouldn't happen right now. They haven't done all this to make someone else the chief minister, but not a BJP man, and especially Devendra Fadnavis. Devendra Fadnavis has come out very strong after this entire thing. The first victory that he had, and he checkmated Sharad Pawar, as I have been saying this continuously, that many people overestimate Sharad Pawar. He checkmated Sharad Pawar not just once, but twice and thrice. First the Rajya Sabha election, then the MLC elections, and now when he has managed to have his own party, his own government, I'm telling you, he has emerged as the undisputed leader. Holding 106 people in the BJP together is the most difficult task, because in BJP एक दक्षिण है तो एक पूरब है. So holding them together and not letting them go anywhere, plus getting these many more MLAs, and also orchestrating such a huge revolt within the Shiv Sena of 40 MLAs, you have to give it to him. There is no other face in Maharashtra BJP. It would be him. Yeah. It would be clearly him.
And the laddus are clearly out in these new images. The celebrations have begun, and he's been very, very smart. He's actually remained firmly in the background, Varun. Something that you pointed out also on this program when you said he's not going to play his cards in a hurry. And Tejas, you've been making the point that Fadnavis's stock in the BJP internally will now be sky high. Tejas, let's bring you in.
If credit where it's due, if you're going to say that Varun was the first one, then I was the second one, because I very
Okay.
clearly said that the writing
Okay.
was on the wall.
But
And
but Varun was first. I have to say today that Varun was first.
Varun is a friend of mine. I give him that credit and one vada pav for him. So, but yes, I mean, first of all, I just want to say a quick few words about Uddhav Thackeray, because
Yeah.
everybody saw it. How could he miss this? I mean, it's almost impossible. And somewhere he has taken this too personal. You don't do that in politics. And as Samrat sir always said, pehle emotion, baad mein practicality. ऐसे नहीं होता है politics में. If you can't say I don't care about power, you are in power for power to be, so that you can make changes. You can make social change, not for being in opposition or being in social activities. I mean, it's unbelievable how today he has lost his party, the government, one third of his party, his senior leaders have gone. What remains with him? The legacy also has been so badly hit. So, yes, it's a terrible, one of the saddest days, certainly for the Shiv Sena, just 4 years before his 60th anniversary. And yes, Fadnavis has played a master stroke here. We talk about the Chanakyas and Chanakyas within every party, and with due credit to Uddhav, with Sharad Pawar, but I honestly think that he has been trumped completely. He had no option only, and the BJP has kept its group together, very, very critical, as Varun was pointing out. And today, I mean, as 2024 comes, I mean, Devendra Fadnavis could be going anywhere. He could be making really huge strides. We had pointed this out earlier also, and in a sense, he has got his revenge back. I think he's far more mature for these words, but this
Yeah.
was a mandate given to him on his governance, and now it's come back 2.5 years later.
Okay, let me bring in Samrat as our third Maharashtra expert, and then Tehseen, who for once is not all smiles. I'll come to you right after that. Very uncharacteristically, you're not all 32 teeth smiling. But let me bring in Samrat sir now. Samrat, if I can ask you, again, you were very on the ball, and you first made the argument that Hindutva, or looking at this through the prism of Hindutva, non-Hindutva, is a lazy analysis. Many Shiv Sena MLAs do not see electoral future if they remain in this particular coalition, and that's a really important point. But I am still puzzled. What happens to the Shiv Sena? Are we now saying that the Thackeray's are out and Eknath Shinde is going to lead the Shiv Sena plus Devendra Fadnavis as the chief minister? I mean, how is this all this going to work? What's going to happen to the Thackeray's, Samratji?
No, though there is one single question was about resignation of Uddhav Thackeray that has been happened. Now the second question will come that whether Shiv Sena will remain with Uddhav Thackeray or not. The problem with the Shiv Sena's current status is that if they lose entire government and entire machinery, they will lose BMC election for 100%. That is written on the wall. So next step is Uddhav Thackeray has to take one step back. He has taken one step back today. Tomorrow he has to take another step back and have to reconcile with Eknath Shinde. So here somewhere he has to accept that whatever is happening for the sake of Shiv Sena, and he has to accept Eknath Shinde by his heart. At least he has to show that he's accepting him by heart. Otherwise, definitely they are going to lose BNC election that is due. That may happen in next 2-3 months, because if BJP in power, they will go for BMC election, and if Shiv Sena go out of power in BMC election at all, they are not part of any coalition BMC government, BMC administration, then they will lose entire hold over the party. So
when you say Uddhav has to take a step back, what is it that he will do now? He will have to accept Eknath Shinde as his boss?
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Or the Shiv Sena will split and he'll form a small regional version of the Shiv Sena. What is going to happen? I can see all of you, Varun, Tejas, all looking at me saying, what are you asking? I just want to understand what happens to Uddhav and Aditya. Samrat?
Uddhav will remain as a party chief. What I see is that Uddhav will agree that he will remain as a party chief. Politics and legislative politics will remain with Eknath Shinde. So that is what Balasaheb Thackeray was doing for more than 2 decades. So despite
except that Balasaheb was the actual fount of power. That is the difference, and Uddhav won't be, or could he still be?
So they are ready. They were ready all the time. They were ready that you should not sit as a chief minister with MVA. We will manage politics. You sit at Matoshri and we will manage entire politics. We will manage BMC. But that was the game plan where NCP entered and they pushed Shiv Sena, not Shiv Sena, but Uddhav Thackeray to the last mile. So now Uddhav Thackeray was literally exhausted today. His resignation and his language was totally changed for last 2 days. Entire Samna language was also changing. So that somewhere it is a hint that okay, next stage will be Uddhav Thackeray as a party chief, and Eknath Shinde and his men will be remain in the politics. So that is how I see the future of Maharashtra in next 2-3 days. The next option is only to lose 39 MLAs, and that will be big blow for Shiv Sena, because those people
Yeah.
out of that 39, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, complete your sentence. Complete your sentence.
Out of that 39, at least 20 people have the capacity to win the election by any party. So it is not that they're dependent of just Shiv Sena only. So it's consider that 15% of Shiv Senics are behind them. Then then the electoral politics is just 5-10% here and there.
I need. Varun wants to come in for a sentence, and then straight away Tehseen, and then Yashwant. Go ahead, Varun, quickly.
I just want to say, the future of dynasty and politics is very limited. Over here, someone got too ambitious. I hope and I think someone who would be sidelined now would be Mr. Sanjay Raut. And this would be not the first time that Sanjay Raut would be sidelined. It had happened earlier also. So it wouldn't come as a surprise because he's the one who has caused a lot of damage. So the Sena will remain this way, as Samrat rightly pointed out.
Okay. And let me bring in Tehseen now. Tehseen, like I said, for once you're not all smiles. It's another state gone for the non-BJP parties. It's one more hit, and it's one more lesson for family-run parties that you can't assume that inherited power means that everybody in that party is going to stay with you. There's a lesson there for the party you support as well, the Congress.
Barkha, I wasn't smiling because I was actually tweeting something very important and I had a couple of tweets to make. So actually I was focusing that I don't make typos because, as you know, Twitter still doesn't have the edit button now that Elon Musk has withdrawn his offer to Twitter. So let me come to the crux of the point. Barkha, I have repeatedly said on your show, I may appear very modern, but I'm a very, very old-fashioned political animal. I'm extremely old-fashioned. So I'm aghast, disappointed, that the Maha Vikas Aghadi did not fight in the assembly. I mean, I was on your show telling you that, look, we have the numbers. That's how politics is done. You don't resign on social media. Who resigns on social media? I'm sorry, Yashwant. I consider him a political guru. I call him up for every single advice. Should I contest, not contest? But Yashwant would shoot me dead if I resigned on Facebook. You resign on the floor of the House. You have to give an emotional speech. And it's not about the chief minister. Prithviraj Chavan should have spoken. Ashok Chavan should have spoken. Ajit Pawar, I don't hold him in the most highest of esteem, but Ajit Pawar should have spoken. Dilip Valse Patil should have spoken. You have dadas there. Why were they not speaking? You should have recounted the work you should have done. The chief minister should have spoken on how in COVID he was awake 24/7, how he took a call from some village in Nanded, some village in Ratnagiri. He should have recounted those experiences. That's how you connect with the people. But what this has shown is the Maha Vikas Aghadi has been reduced to people living on social media and praises from the social media. If I may make another point, one of the prime reasons for the collapse, the terrible collapse of the Maha Vikas Aghadi is Sanjay Raut and his habit to shoot off his mouth. I mean, you cannot be pleasing a social media audience all the time. Real politics is hard work. Real politics is not grabbing headlines. Real politics is not making sensational statements. Real politics is about getting the nitty-gritties right. For example, there was a tweet of mine today.
You're disappointed that Uddhav Thackeray and other leaders in the Congress and the coalition chose to play this out on Facebook instead of facing the people and quitting on the floor of the House.
You fight till the last man standing. You fight till the last MLA, the last corporator. That's what we've been taught. I mean, would you imagine Indira Gandhi resigning on a Facebook post? There was no Facebook. I'm just asking. Would you imagine Vajpayee resigning? I mean, look at Vajpayee's speech when he resigned, when he had one MP less. He gave a speech that moved the country. You may agree or disagree. Politics is about seizing the opportunity. It's about going out. What this was reduced to was pleasing an audience on social media. I have one more point to make. the greatest loss in this political Mahagadbad is not of the Shiv Sena. I am sorry. It's of the Congress party. The Congress party is the biggest loser in this. And as we progress in the show, I'll explain to you why.
Okay, I'm going to try and bring Yashwant in now, who's not on the best line. But Yashwant, I just want the big picture from you. Tehseen has made the point already that it is bizarre for old-style politicians
But
to
Yashwant,
resign,
I just
to resign on social media. Go ahead, Yashwant.
to resign on social media. Go ahead, Yashwant.
Yes, I mean, I totally agree with Tahsin. Actually, Barka, if you look into the scenario, 16th of May
To resign
2014,
on social media. Go ahead, Yashwant.
it's 16th of May 2014 was a complete,
Yashwant,
you
you're
know-
looping back. You're looping back to us. We'll need you to reconnect. Let me bring in Sandeep in the meantime. Sandeep, go ahead. Sandeep.
Yeah, the advantages, disadvantages coming as a tail ender, as most of your points have already been spoken by others. So before other things are taken, as I've said and I tweeted, Devendra Fadnavis, the first thing he ought to do tomorrow is to send a thank you letter to Sanjay Raut. That is, I think, only it courtesy demands he does that. And he should also send a commiseration letter to Tehseen's party, which I again agree, they are the worst loser because they have no legs to stand. And without provoking Tehseen, I'll say that, Barkha, you've seen this entire episode. Throughout the episode, okay, they sent Kamal Nath to Bombay, but the Maharashtra leaders of Congress, they were neither visible nor one could hear them. Now, there is a reason and explanation for that, which I can't go into on your live show, but that is also telling. Okay, now tomorrow, if there is a floor test, I really don't know how some of these Congress MLAs are going to behave because they really don't have a future going ahead. And Tehseen's point is absolutely well taken about Uddhav Thackeray's resigning, but the larger point out of that, I was going to be a little facetious. I do always when Tehseen is there. The biggest tragedy of these parties, they don't have him as an advisor, insider. He advises from outside. So that's the problem of, this whole Twitter episode point stands also for Tehseen's own party. They also, operate via Twitter rather than on the ground. Now here, the bigger point is Uddhav Thackeray needed good advisors around him. Whether by choice or by default, he got these sort of people around him. That's the point. And then he.
But isn't it too simplistic to make this all about Sanjay Raut? I mean, I
No,
just
no,
find
no,
I find
I'm
it
not
astonishing making this
I'm not
whole
talking-
thing about one Sanjay Raut.
No. He's just a symbol. So he's just a symbol, but who was a person of, substance around him to do? So he was relying perhaps a lot on Sharad Pawar to guide him. Okay, there was nobody really in Congress to guide him, and Congress headquarters was not bothered. Priyanka Gandhi went off to Maldives and Rahul Gandhi went off to Wayanad. So they were not really, engaged, invested in this. No, just 1 minute to answer your question, my two-penny bit. Two things I'll make. Again, before people take proprietary right, I have made a comment that the trinity now to look out for in BJP are Fadnavis, Hemant Biswa Sarma, and Yogi Adityanath. These three will emerge as the three trinity going forward.
I think that's a very interesting point. That's a very interesting point that the next generation of rising stars. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is what, it's not a question of, it's an organization which throws up. Okay, that sort of a thing. And as earlier, Samrat and discussing, one point they didn't mention, probably it's not mentionable in Maharashtra. It is not just Sharad Pawar, but there is another heavyweight in Nagpur, whom he has also neutralized.
You're talking about Nitin Gadkari, of course. Let me jump in here. You're talking about Nitin Gadkari having been, I'm making an intelligent guess here about who you're talking about, Sandeep, that Nitin Gadkari seen close to be the RSS, but a long seen as someone who doesn't like Fadnavis. He's seen Fadnavis as someone who upstaged him within the party hierarchy, and we will talk about Nitin Gadkari as well.
tied together, Sharad Pawar and Nitin Gadkari. Okay,
That's
so it is
interesting. That's
yeah,
interesting. That's interesting. But can I try to see if Yashwant can hear me? Yashwant, if you can
I hope
close
you
your.
are getting my voice, Barka. I'm
Yes.
just hoping that you are getting my voice clear.
Yep.
I was hearing the debate, and I couldn't agree more with what Tahsin said. I actually want to say that, starting the backward where he left the point, that actually the biggest loser in this entire game was Congress, because they compromised on their ideological identity, bending over backwards. If I say so, that probably BJP did not lose as much as getting into alliance with PDP. That I feel that Congress lost as much as getting into an alliance with Shiv Sena. Having said that, who on earth tries to do it on the Facebook or on the social media? Barka, if 16th of May 2014 became a watershed moment for the Indian politics, because BJP won a complete majority, I genuinely believe it had that thing rooted in the moment when Atalji inside the parliament, you know, gave that speech on losing that majority vote by one single vote. It was rooted that day. The day Atalji gave that speech on the floor of the parliament, saying कि ऐसी सत्ता को मैं दूर से भी नहीं छूता. That day, it was only a matter of time, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that BJP will get a majority on its own. I think somewhere Uddhav Thackeray today lost that moment. He should have actually stood up on the floor. He should have challenged the rebels. He should have taken the fight right into the rebels' den and saying that I am the real Shiv Sena. Even if you are going to vote against me, do it right in my face. You see, in the last 2 weeks, 1 week or so, every time Shiv Sena's thing was, why don't you talk to me? Why did not you tell me in my face that you were having a problem? That is what was actually clicking with the people. And as on today, asking those rebels, daring them to vote against Shiv Sena, probably would have done the trick for Shiv Sena or Uddhav Thackeray. That is where I think, in my limited understanding, Barkha, he missed a point. He should have asked everybody who is leaving the camp, force them to vote against him one by one and exposed him. But I think he just kind of surrendered. That is very unfortunate on the Shiv Sena side. And yes, I agree with Tahsin that in this entire game, Barkha, Congress had no role in the forming the government, in losing the government. As if the Congress was a bystander out there. क्या हो रहा है हमें समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. सरकार क्यों बनी हमें पता नहीं. सरकार का हम हिस्सा क्यों थे हमें पता नहीं. सरकार क्यों डूबी हमें पता नहीं. सरकार से हम बाहर क्यों हुए हमें पता नहीं. It's that kind of a clueless game, which is kind of, very disheartening for any Congress supporter. Any supporter who wants to see the Congress in a good, strong opposition role in the movement and if in the government role in the future.
I think that's a great point, and that analogy with Vajpayee when he lost by one vote but made one of the most memorable speeches on the floor of the House. Who can forget that? Now, those are the pictures outside Matoshri, Uddhav Thackeray driving his own car, leaving for the governor's house to formally hand in his resignation. But I think it's a brilliant point made on this program today that Mr. Thackeray not just missed a moment, he let down his own cadre. Think of the Shiv Senics who are still loyal to him, who are standing on the street, and now they have seen the Chief Minister resign on Facebook. Varun, I know your hand's going up, but Tahsin and then Varun. Tahsin, go ahead. Yeah.
The Shiv Sena follows the legacy of Shivaji Maharaj and Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj. And they, with numerically very small strengths, took on the mighty Mughal Empire. They never backed out. And I want to just add on to what Yashwant said. If I was Uddhav Thackeray ji, hypothetically, the Eknath Shinde camp is still a part of the Shiv Sena, right? Because they have not formed another party. So they would have to sit in my position. They would have to sit with the Shiv Sena. I would ask the speaker to make Eknath Shinde sit next to me. And when I speak, I would look at him in the eye and ask him, Bal Thackeray Sahab made you who you are. You want to resign? You have to do this. India is a country where you take on people. You have to look at Eknath Shinde and say, look at me in the eye. Bal Thackeray made you 5 times MLA. Your son is an MP. Do you want to backstab me? Why are you backstabbing me? My chest is in front of you. Put your sword in my chest. That's how. Put your dagger in my heart. That's what he should have done. And let Eknath Shinde rebel. These Shiv Sainiks would have come onto the streets emotionally. Today, what you're seeing is, and I say this with respect, the politics of Shiv Sena. But who's on the streets? There's nobody on the streets. The Pune police is relaxed. They don't even expect trouble. I mean, is this the Shiv Sena? And I'm not accepting violence. I'm saying there's no protest. Can you imagine how out of touch they are with their own cadre?
Yeah. I think you and Yashwant have made excellent points about this. Varun, you were wanting to come in on this. Uddhav Thackeray speaking on Facebook is presented as Uddhav Thackeray speaking directly to the people. But, Facebook can't substitute old-style politics. If you want Senex to come out, one of the statements he made was, I am resigning because I don't want to risk the blood of Senex being spilled on the street. That's what he said tomorrow. But where are the Senex? If you're going to be on Facebook and you're going to get into your car and resign and you're not there among the people, he could be sitting on protest outside the governor's house all night. He could be on the floor of the house, as both Tehseen and Yashwant have said, taking on one rebel MLA after the other, and at least gone out in style. He's gone out, instead of ending with a bang, with a classic whimper. Varun.
I respect Deshmukh ji a lot and I love Tehseen. But both of them, I don't know why are they comparing. I think they do not know how Uddhav Thackeray is or what kind of politics he does. And comparing him with a statesman like Atal Bihari Vajpayee, I'm like, oh, please, that would be too much. And Uddhav knows what he's doing. Uddhav has been like this. A reluctant politician, you cannot force him to do something that you're expecting what Atal ji did or B.S. Yadurappa for that matter did, because B.S. Yadurappa also spoke and then he left, and then within few days or few months they were back. And Atal ji 5 years, but they were back, or not 5 years, I think less than that they were back. So, but Uddhav is a very reluctant politician. This is the best what he could do. If he had something, he could have, now going back, yes, obviously, people would feel he should have gone in the house tomorrow and spoken over there. But yeah, how many of you have heard him speak? He cannot, speak in a way that would inspire.
I used to call him, Varun, there was a book called The Reluctant Fundamentalist. It's a movie also. And I used to call him that because, he was trying to inherit the fiery legacy of Bala Sahib. And he simply was not able to do so. And in fact, as chief minister, he tried to refashion himself and reach out to a constituency that was not the classic Shiv Sena constituency. Yashwant, if you want to briefly respond, and Tejas are coming to you right after that, you and Samrat and Sandeep. Yashwant, go ahead.
Yeah, Barkha, I hope again I'm hoping that you are getting my voice.
Yeah.
But yes, I totally actually kind of agree with Varun as well. To expect going. But Varun, to be honest, we all learn from the best practices, don't we? We need to learn from the best practices, and I believe that Atalji's speech of saying that I am resigning at that point of time was one of the greatest turnaround movements as far as the BJP politics is concerned. So I am just understanding that I think Uddhav Thackeray actually lost a movement, actually lost a way of putting his point across that that I am doing it for you, and exactly the way that Tehseen just said that somebody has to look into the eye of the rebel and say, if you want to do it right in my face. Do it what I am trying to say. And this is where he lost a great opportunity. And right now, the way I look at his statement on the telecast, that's saying that it's the Shiv Sainiks who are going to be on the street and like that. it's not going to help. I'm sorry, but I feel that saying that going ahead and challenging the rebels eye to eye on the floor of the house has a different kind of impact rather than saying that it's the Shiv Sainiks on the streets who will do their
Yeah,
job and who
let's
will do.
agree. Let's agree that Uddhav Thackeray missed a moment, and we're getting reactions from Fadnavis. Devendra Fadnavis also will play that out in a moment. I'm very keen for our Maharashtra experts in particular to talk about what happens now. What happens to Sharad Pawar? What happens to Eknath Shinde? What happens to Uddhav Thackeray as the party president of a party where somebody else is represented in government? Samrat spoke of it being the Bala Sahib model, but Bala Sahib was the remote control. Uddhav Thackeray's invincibility has now been smashed. Tejas, go ahead.
Numero politician will be Devendra Fadnavis. There is absolutely no doubt about it. There is no second, challenger also who could probably say in Maharashtra BJP that I can replace this man. So Devendra Fadnavis is certainly going to continue for the next 2.5 years if this government is going to continue in this manner. And yes, as far as Sharad Pawar is concerned, while of course the NCP has been creeping in all the strongholds of the Shiv Sena, I think that again is going to be in the next couple of years, as it depends on his as he is aging, his health condition. He has been reluctant to take on certain responsibilities, though of course he did not want to be the presidential candidate because he wanted to be in active politics. So his willingness is there, but how long can he?
But does this finally settle the conspiracy that Sharad Pawar was in cahoots with the BJP? Does it settle this, or will it be furthered by this? I don't know. I'm seeing everybody react to it. Tehseen, was Pawar in it or out of it? Tehseen?
I don't trust Ajit Pawar. Let me just put it as bluntly as I can. I have never trusted Ajit Pawar, and I think Ajit Pawar is very dangerous for the Congress. I told this to Samrat off the record when he invited me to a Sakal function, that I absolutely don't trust Ajit Pawar. And the politics of Congress was to fight Ajit Pawar. That was the politics. And now the Congress is a third player. I feel so bad about it. It's a state where the Congress was born.
Okay, I must give Samrat a chance. Sorry, Tejas, I cut you off, but I must give Samrat a chance to also come in there. Samrat, please go ahead.
No, I see two different points now. The first is you just go through the decisions cabinet has taken this evening. There are two decisions which will impact Maharashtra.
The renaming of the cities, the last play at Hindutva, but yeah,
that is
Aurangabad
Aurangabad and Usmanabad. Those
Yes.
2 points, these are not small points to ignore, because those are the points where Congress had always voted against this kind of renaming, and they maintain their secularism. Now they become a part of a government which has taken renaming decision where MIM is already growing. So that will be the one part we have to keep close watch on how it will develop. Second is that, okay, I still believe that Uddhav Thackeray will definitely back Eknath Shinde going forward, because there is no other choice than to lose 39 MLAs. So disqualification and other things, those things will come and go. But if you have to remain in the politics, you have to think of 39 MLAs. That will be the major decision he has to take. Aditya Thackeray will remain out of power for a while. That is why he resigned from the MLC also. It was
you mean Uddhav Thackeray, not Aditya?
Yeah, Uddhav Thackeray. He resigned from MLC also. That is to give a way to do the politics on as per your terms. So that we have to see, because not at, even by this evening or by late night, no rebel MLA said that they had quit Shiv Sena. So
yeah, that's what I'm not understanding. You're basically seeing a situation, Tejas, where it's a little bit like Jack Dorsey being eased out of Twitter, and whether Elon Musk takes over it or not, Jack Dorsey is out. And then he realizes that he packs his bags and he leaves. Thackeray can't pack his bags and go anywhere, because actually if 40 out of 55 MLAs are with the other side, what are you going to do with the remaining 15? What happens to the Thackerays? No one is explaining to me what happens to the Thackerays. Tejas and then Sandeep. Tejas quickly and then Sandeep. Yeah. Tejas, you're on me. Yeah.
Yeah, we say in Mumbai, Mandavli Karlo, which basically means patch up, So that has to be done. If that is not done, I mean, as Samratji is saying, you're losing too much. And for, you have to keep your ego away here. They're taking it too personally. This is not about the Thackeray's, and the Sainiks, the Shiv Sena, Shinde camp gave them enough wiggle room to not involve them directly by saying that, listen, this is about Hindutva, about NCP, Congress. There was enough wiggle room. Get the message. This is not about you, and this is about the future, about our own future as electoral, the next elections come in, and move on. If that doesn't happen, then yeah, we are seeing a further collapse, especially as the BMC elections come close.
Sandeep, go ahead. Sorry, Sandeep, you're on mute. Yeah, now go ahead. Yeah.
I've always maintained, I think I said this in program also, that Uddhav Thackeray's main challenge was to retain the party and remains retaining the party rather than the chair. The chair was dispensable. Chair can keep coming back. That's a different issue. Now, what he does to retain the party, and here Samrat is obviously much more clued on to Maharashtra politics, but I have a slightly different view. One is why Eknath Shinde and others are not quitting. That is the tactical bit. They don't want to tomorrow go into the thing as a defection, get in any form the defection rule, etc. And if nobody is insisting, why do they get the defection?
Which was the hope of the Uddhav Thackeray camp, that the legal technicalities, because the MLAs would not resign, would see them through, and the Supreme Court, of course, decided otherwise. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Uddhav Thackeray right now, by his stand, he cannot go and meddle, as you are saying. It's like Jack Dorsey pulling out and letting the thing play out. But what will happen to the party? I think that's a second stage thing which will play out going forward. Okay, because there are a lot of things can happen. It's like the Congress O, Congress I. Somebody claims, and then subsequently people merge. All sorts of things can happen. But immediate concerns would be like Samrat was saying: BMC election, Thane election. I don't think Eknath Shinde is going to let his grip of Thane go away. And neither is BJP allow the Bombay BMC grip to go away. So Uddhav Thackeray now essentially has to display a great deal of statesmanship that, raise themselves. And, what's happening, he makes a great speech, but that gets immediately negated by people around him with everything he says. So it doesn't gel.
I want to go to Samrat for a moment. I know, Tehseen, you've got to hand up, and I need to go to Yashwant and Varun also. But Samrat, you have reminded us that there is an interesting parallel in history when we talk about Sharad Pawar. And there is a parallel in history when Sharad Pawar actually brought down the Congress's Vasant-Dada Patil government. And this is a kind of similar coup we are seeing today. So can you walk us through that moment in history, Samrat?
So that is being discussed in Maharashtra for the last 8 days.
Yeah.
Everybody who is criticizing Eknath Shinde, the same party.
There we can see Maharashtra Times, and that's a slice of history there. But go ahead, Samrat. Yes.
Yeah, they are giving the BJP and Eknath Shinde camp giving similar example that Sharad Pawar, who is actually asking us not to do any kind of rebellion, has done same thing for 38 years back, so 34 years back.
Yeah.
We are following the same footsteps. So we don't like this government to continue. We are just going out of this government and we'll make our own government. So Vasant-Dada Patil, it's a saying in Maharashtra how Sharad Pawar betrayed Vasant-Dada. So despite Sharad Pawar definitely 100 times rejected that coup and other things, a Vasant-Dada group still exists in Maharashtra, and they criticize Sharad Pawar for the same movement. So Sharad Pawar, who is actually against the Eknath Shinde's coup and rebellion, has done the same thing.
I mean, Sharad Pawar, Varun says that we all overestimate Sharad Pawar. I think Sharad Pawar is not as you said, on a leg to stand on when he asks people not to switch sides. Tehseen and then Yashwant. Tehseen, go ahead.
No, I slightly disagree with what Sandeep said earlier on. There will be a fight. There will be a massive fight on who controls Shiv Sena. That is going to happen right away. That is the immediate fight in staring in the face. And the reason I say this is the BMC elections around the corner. Now, ideally, Eknath Shinde camp, that part of the Shiv Sena, would like to go with Devendra Fadnavis and the BJP in an alliance so that they get some slice of the pie in the BMC. They assume BJP is winning that, and in Thane and Pune, etc., the other municipal corporations. The Uddhav Thackeray faction obviously will not want an alliance with Devendra Fadnavis. Devendra Fadnavis himself will not vote an alliance with anybody at this point of time because the BJP has momentum going. So it's going to be a very interesting churning that's going to happen. How does Devendra Fadnavis accommodate Eknath Shinde? To what extent does he accommodate Eknath Shinde without Eknath Shinde now being squeezed out and the Shiv Sena saying, look, you went to the BJP, the Shiv Sena is in the Uddhav Thackeray Sena, and look, you're only humiliated. So it's going to be a very interesting churning. So there will be a fight for the Shiv Sena. It's not that there won't be a fight for the Shiv Sena. That's going to happen right away.
I think that is an important point that, everyone's saying it's secondary, but once Devendra Fadnavis takes charge, which seems to be the agreement here on this conversation, how do the power dynamics within that alliance and within the Sena actually play out? Now, Yashwant, let's bring you in, and let's also bring up the Sanjay Rawat tweet that we have, since all of this is playing out on social media. Basically, after praising Thackeray, he says, will eat sticks go to jail, but it is Bala Sahib that will keep the Shiv Sena flaming. So the fight for the Bala Sahib legacy is going to carry on. And I am really kind of confused about, after the panel agrees that it's Fadnavis as CM, Eknath Shinde as Deputy Chief Minister, what happens to all the other stalwarts within the BJP, within the alliance, within the Sena? Yashwant.
Well, I mean, that's something for the future to tell, Barkha. But, I'm glad that you pulled out that tweet, because I remembered a couple of years back, whenever this entire drama started, I had tweeted that Sanjay Rawat as an individual actually personifies exactly whatever with the problem with Shiv Sena is. And there is a great lesson to learn, Barkha. I tell you what, not just for Shiv Sena, even for the Congress or for any party, God damn it. I mean, I don't see a reason why any party should not learn a lesson from this. Whenever the strategist or the movers and the shakers or the parties, the people who lead the party, if they will depend on strategists or advisors who are not really grassrooted politicians, who just want to paradrop as some kind of a Chanakya out of the blue, and who have no clue whatsoever. शुद्ध हिंदी में बोलूं बरखा तो मैं हिंदी मीडियम टाइप हूं, मतलब कभी कभी ऐसा लगता है कि शायद अंग्रेजी बोलने में आई गेट लॉस्ट इन ट्रांसलेशन इन दैट वे, बिकॉज मेरा दिमाग हिंदी में सोचता है और मैं बोलता मुंह से अंग्रेजी में हूं इन दैट वे. जो लोग एक म्यूनिसिपैलिटी का वार्ड भी खुद अकेले अपनी हैसियत पे जीतने की हैसियत नहीं रखते, उन लोगों को अगर आप अपना पॉलिटिकल स्ट्रेटेजिस्ट बनाओगे, उन लोगों की बात को सुन करके आप अपना ही राजनीति तय करोगे, तो आपका हश्र यही होगा. ये चीज, दिस entire episode precisely tells you what is wrong with so many of the politicians in India right now. Starting, I'm sorry, Tahsin, but starting from what is happening in Congress to right up to Shiv Sena, people have somewhere lost of gauging, accepting, listening to their own people who are the real people on the ground, who are contesting elections, who are understanding what is the pulse of the people, who are the nut and bolts of the organization. Somewhere down the lane, there is a echo chamber, there is a comfort chamber of all such leaders who take into account the ideas and the strategy of the people who are completely rootless, and they follow that idea, they follow that strategy, and they end up where unfortunately Shiv Sena and Uddhav Thackeray are.
If I had to summarize it, coteries can kill parties. Basically, I think that's what. And when the coteries are unelectable and unelected, they can kill parties even more so. Varun, let's bring you in. It's time to take last comments, Varun, and then we'll go around the panel for last comments. Varun, go ahead. Sorry, Varun, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I want to ask, where is this thing coming from that Eknath Shinde will be the deputy CM?
That's a good question. We've all just assumed there must be something in it for him. Why did he do this otherwise?
But why would
you tell us?
CM?
Okay, so then you tell us what will happen to Mr. Eknath Shinde, who has managed to keep his MLAs together from Surat to Guwahati to Goa. He should get something for this.
Yeah, he will get something big. He might get urban development, which portfolio he already has.
He was already a minister. What did he do all this for then?
But or else he might get something what Himanta Biswa Sarma got when he shifted from Congress to BJP. And that is what I'm trying to tell you all for a very long time. In BJP, you have a Himanta Biswa Sarma who can become a chief minister in spite of having tall leaders like Sarvanand Nando. And it's people know that with BJP there's a future. I had on your show, Barkhan Day once said that all these MLAs leaving do not see Shiv Sena as a party that will help them win future elections because they had gone away from ideology.
So tell me, you're basically saying this thing, it's because, as Samratji has been saying, they really felt that their political future did not lie in this coalition anymore. Is that what you're saying, Varun?
I'm not just saying that, but I'm also saying that most of these people have gone there hoping that without any hope that they will be getting ministries. But as I said, many of them will get ministries because MLCs anyway haven't come over here. So many of the MLCs in the Shiv Sena might not get ministry.
Very interesting. Can I get the Maharashtra experts to weigh in before we take last comments from the other stages? You agree that you don't just assume Eknath Shinde is waltzing in, just because he's in charge of these 39, 40 MLAs?
I mean, my gut goes in the way you are thinking, actually, that he would want really something more than just an
for all this.
Yeah. One doesn't know really, how it will exactly play out. But yeah, I think today I am thinking more about the Thackerays, because I think that this is a tectonic shift in Maharashtra politics, and they certainly have lost their ideological moorings. Very obvious with this entire coalition. Party is upset, party is gone. I think the only hope they really have now is to really, yes, he was going to go to the Shiv Sena Bhavan and sit there, but they really need to listen to what, get back post-COVID 2 years, now get back and listen to what people are really saying. Otherwise, I don't see, I think they'll be eating the BJP, which wants to completely dominate over the Shiv Sena, and they have no reason for them to really exist, because there is no, it's not on their shoulders and their responsibility that this party has to exist. It was born during the time of Balasaheb Thackeray. Maybe its utility is over now. So that's not their responsibility. Yeah. It is Uddhav the Thackeray's responsibility that party exists. It has. Now, the only problem is that you have lost your ideological moorings.
Yeah.
Get it
Let's bring Samrat. You're on mute, sir. Yeah.
Sorry. I think that the biggest gain for Eknath Shinde is now he has become number 1 and number 2 leadership. So despite whether he becomes chief minister or not, it is not the issue. But more than Sharad Pawar, more than Congress, Prithviraj Chavan, or any other minister, he has become dominated number 1, 2. He has achieved number 1, 2 position. So whether he will become deputy chief minister or urban development minister, it doesn't matter. For Shiv Sena MLAs now, he is the only hope. So he has taken place of Uddhav Thackeray also. So he has taken place of
fascinating.
Yeah. So that is the major advantage for him. And this government will work for next 20 months more effectively, because then the Lok Sabha election process will start. So there he will play his cards. He will get few seats, few more here and there.
So what happens tomorrow? According to you, tomorrow in the assembly, what happens? Because all Fadnavis is saying is, we will tell you what happens tomorrow. What do you see happening tomorrow, Samrat?
The floor test, I definitely believe that they will either meet governor and submit
a list of support.
And they will have a small gathering there. But their swearing-in ceremony, it will not a small ceremony. It will be a grand ceremony. That is what BJP is planning for. They will not go.
And will Aditya Thackeray be in that swearing-in ceremony, Varun? Since you don't think Eknath Shinde will, let me ask you, will Aditya Thackeray be?
I think he must have matured by now that he will attend it if he's in.
But will he be sworn in as minister in the new?
No, obviously not. I don't think so.
Believe that
it's better he stays back home and handles the party well, Shiv Sena well. Most of his core committee members who were MLAs left, so I think he gets them back. And the corporators who didn't side with him, hopefully, he's a good friend. So just a small advice, he should go on field, meet people, and that will help him a lot.
Samrat, you were trying to complete your point, and then I'll give it to the non-Maharashtra commentators for the last word. Yeah, Samrat?
I'm seeing a climax.
Oh, yes, I can hear you lip read you saying you're from Maharashtra. Yes, I heard that. Yes. Yes.
This party is totally emotional party. You see how, the way we are discussing how Uddhav Thackeray resigned using Facebook instead of attending the assembly. So I see that these MLAs and the new ministry will visit Matoshri as well. There is no problem. They will take blessings of Uddhav Thackeray and they will okay. This will be the end of Uddhav Thackeray's political career. He will become Shiv Sena Supremo definitely, less than Balasaheb Thackeray, but he will be treated as an idol as we discussed earlier, and that is the climax I am just willing to see nowadays.
Okay, Tehzeen.
There are two or three things, and I'm saying this from the Congress perspective, that they need to learn. A, from the BJP. Any idea that Eknath Shinde will be given a lot of importance should be thrown out of the window. It's the BJP. It's Narendra Modi, Amit Shah, JP Nadda's party. It's not the Congress party. They don't get outsiders and make them PCC presidents like they made Sidhu and others. And they don't give power to outsiders. You should not give power to outsiders. Something I've lamented a number of times.
I mean,
the BJP does not make.
After
I'm coming to that. They gave it to Hemanta, Jyotiraditya, everybody, but after tapasya, they don't do it right away. You have to prove yourself. So to that extent, Eknath Shinde will get urban development. He will get a couple of important ministries. He'll get very good ministries, but he'll get guardian ministry, minister where he wants to become. But beyond that, that's where he will be kept. He will not be made deputy chief minister. That's not how BJP works. Second, where does the Congress go from here? Between all of this, what nobody discussed, and Samrat and Varun and Yashwant will back me up, and Tejas, the MLC elections, Congress cross-voted in that. The Congress, I know the three MLCs.
Hello, everybody cross-voted except NCP. Nobody cross-voted. They went through. They got
except
yeah. I mean,
NCP
cross-voting, ulta cross-voting hua unke liye.
Exactly, the NCP got. Now, the Congress MLAs are very, very uncomfortable with a number of things. A, this alliance with the Shiv Sena was bothered some of them. Some of them were bothered with the Rajya Sabha, what happened. The poet or whatever he came, that made some people uncomfortable from what I hear in the power circles in Mumbai. So there is an uncomfortable feeling. Had the no confidence happened, had it happened hypothetically, there was a good chance of who else would have cross-voted. Now there will be a floor test. There has to be a floor test. The chief minister has to prove his majority. There, I don't think there will be so much of cross-voting because the apple cart won't get imbalanced so much right now. But what is the future? What does Fadnavis take? Because remember, it is the same BJP that took the leader of the opposition of the Congress into their fold, VK Patilji. They took him straight away while he was right out there. So now what happens to the Congress is fundamental. And why I say this is because the Congress was born in Maharashtra. It was supposed to be born in Pune because of plague. Its first session was held in Bombay, now Mumbai. And to see the Congress get irrelevant in Maharashtra, the state where Congress still has a hold, is actually breaking my heart. Nothing makes me feel more bad than that. But that's the reality.
Okay, Sandeep.
Three quick points. First is, I maintain, this is apropos Sharad Pawar. I personally think, to some extent, Uddhav Thackeray was a collateral damage between Sharad Pawar and Amit Shah. Okay, that is the real scores which have been settled.
Why do you say that?
That's where the whole issue is. And Sharad Pawar has been initially, they've gone through various things. Sharad Pawar has been taking a very hostile, aggressive stand. And that's why you find these people who are behind bars just now. All this ED and everything else is happening. And because Sharad Pawar has... See, Sharad Pawar, we'll get into a different track. Samrat and Tehzeen would know that his current priorities are very different. That's why they also have an issue between him and Ajit Pawar. So those are different factors. So this is the first is that. Secondly, again, going partly by what Tehzeen and others saying, BJP will try to finish off Shiv Sena in that mold. They will not like another cadre-based party to be existing in Maharashtra. So if it has to grow, it'll grow through Eknath Shinde and others in some form and allied form, but the old, this thing, they will try to decimate together. And once that is done, then it becomes then a two-party kind of a race. Okay, Congress, as I agree with, I commiserate with Tehzeen, it's unfortunate due to their own failing. This is one state where they have genuine support. There are a lot of people who feel for Congress everywhere. They had a ground thing. That's why they performed much better than what was expected in the last elections also.
Right.
So they have now gone into wilderness. And none of these people Why I said that, they didn't come forward, Ashok Chavan and others, because they don't want to invest in a losing thing. If they come forward,
Yeah.
it means they need to put money on the table.
Absolutely. Yashwant, last word. Sorry, Yashwant, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I hope you're getting it.
Yeah.
So just very quickly, 3 points. Number one, no matter who becomes the CM or deputy CM or which ministry who gets, for me, Varun is the man of the match. And I want to say this because that is something he struck his ground. So that is where I want to say this. That's the point number one. Number two, Baka, I still feel, and many of my co-panelists might not agree with me, Shiv Sena's core strength is in the Mumbai region, and the battle of the next Mumbai election would be the real one to see, if the rebels who are calling them the real Shiv Sena, they hold a ground, or if Shiv Sena can reinvent over there in the Mumbai election. It's a tough task. I mean, I am not saying that it's going to be easy, but something tells me that still the cadre of the Shiv Sena in Mumbai region might still stick to Uddhav Thackeray and the Thackeray families. But it's a theory which we will know as and when we go into the Mumbai thing. And the third and the bottom line, as if I call it, is a lesson for every political party or an individual in India. If you have got Sanjay Raut inside your chamber, good to have him, nice to listen to him. But if you are planning your concrete political ground based on any route to start with, it might bring you short-term gains, but it is going to certainly bring you a long-term doom. That's a lesson. Sanjay, I said this, Sanjay Raut is no more an individual. He has kind of become a phenomena. You will figure out Sanjay Raut in different forms and shapes in every state and in every katori, as and when you call it. It's a phenomena. If you are going to listen to Raut, then it will bring you a short-term game, but it will give you a long-term too.
Well, I was going to close, but Tehseen is very desperately wanting to make one point. Tehseen?
Every single Congress leader from Maharashtra that I spoke to, I'm talking about a few months back, and I'm saying this first time on TV, I've never even tweeted about this, was extremely heartbroken when there was those visuals outside Parliament or one of those protests where Sanjay Raut had his arms around Rahul Gandhi, and he was an equal. And for Congress leaders, that was blasphemy. Not because you can't put your arms around Rahul Gandhi. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that to see this guy who cracks jokes, and the Congress also, not just Sanjay Raut, the other guy they took very seriously was Kumar Vishwas before Punjab elections. And see the result. They went all around on Kumar Vishwas and they took him. And I'm saying, if your politics is limited to social media, you don't stand a chance. Get out. And I'm a guy who's on social media, but you need to be on the ground. Yeah. Wake up and smell the coffee or eat the vada pav.
That is actually the bottom line. But Sandeep, let's let you wrap this up with an irresistible pun that is going to be used a lot.
No, that's different. I said the phenomena is Raut brings you Raut. That is what.
But I will actually say, I take Yashwant's point about Sanjay Raut being a phenomena, but in the end, there are other lessons too. There are lessons that family-run parties are not guaranteed of being at the helm. That's a really important lesson that we need to remember, that the BJP is a 24/7, it has insatiable appetite, and it's a 24/7 political machinery. And if you're not going to counter it with 24/7 politics, you may as well throw in the towel right now. And three, the point made by everybody on this panel, Facebook and Twitter are not substitute for grassroots politics. So Sanjay Raut are not. These are the 3 or 4 takeaways that also remain. And it will be very interesting now to see what happens to all the other players. Sharad Pawar, stalwart of Indian politics, and Nitin Gadkari, a man close to the BJP, and so many other protagonists are going to be impacted by what I think was called the tectonic shift in Maharashtra politics. Thank you very much, Samrat, Tejas, Yashwant, Sandeep, Tehseen, and Varun. Thank you very much. And at this late night, a lot of you tuned in. Thank you to our audience. See you tomorrow. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.